We're going to be going over the most missed questions from the 1.08 quiz. So if you don't have one of these questions on your quiz, you will have a similar one. So make sure you're paying attention. Even if the numbers don't seem the same, you will have a very similar question on your quiz if you don't see one exactly like this one. This one says, what is the value of x? First of all, we need to realize that this is a problem dealing with the angle bisector theorem, which basically says side to bottom equals side to bottom. And when I say bottom, I mean the corresponding bottom piece to that side. So in this case, we have that x that is representing the entire base of the triangle, but we know that this piece yk is 68. So if I wanted to represent the piece vy, I don't have it labeled as anything specific. I need to do it in terms of x as well. You don't want to introduce another variable. And we can actually do it in terms of x pretty easily, because I know that if the whole thing is x, but then this piece yk is 68, then what's left is the whole thing x minus 68. So if you take the whole length x and take away the other piece, which is 68, you will get the remaining piece of this side, which is going to be x minus 68. Now we can set up our proportions from the angle bisector theorem. Side to bottom, so 57 over that corresponding piece on the bottom or the base is x minus 68 equals, and I'm going to go ahead and put this in parentheses so we don't forget when we cross multiply in a minute, equals, and then side to bottom again. So 129.2, and I say bottom, I know that those are on the top, but we think of this as the base of the triangle. So I usually call that the bottom, even if the triangle appears to be upside down, even if it's not the actual bottom in the picture. So we're just going to cross multiply. We'll have 129.2, times x minus 68 equals, and then you're going to grab your calculator and you're going to multiply 57 times 68. You'll get a pretty large number, as you could probably guess. 3,876 will be on that right-hand side. We'll distribute. So you have 129.2 x. That means when we distribute, we're multiplying to each term in the parentheses. And then we'll have negative 68 times 129.2. Make sure you keep that negative sign with it. So it's going to be negative or minus 8,785.6. All of that's equal to the 3,876. To continue solving for x, we are just going to add that 8,785.6 to both sides. That will bring us to 129.2x is equal to, and we're going to divide. We're going to take that 8,000, or excuse me, we're going to add. We're not dividing yet. That'll be our next step. We're going to add 8,785.6 plus 3,876. And so you end up with 12,661.6. Divide both sides by that 129.2. 129.2. And that cancels out the 129.2 on the left side. And on the right side, we end up with a nice clean 98. But hold on just a minute. Make sure that they are asking you for the value of x and not the value of the smaller piece right there. Because if they were asking us for the value of the smaller piece, then we would have to plug it back in. We'd have to do 98 minus 68, and we would get 30. However, they are just asking us for x, so we would say 98 millimeters. The next one we want to look at is another angle bisector, and the reason we know that is because these two angles are marked congruent, and we have a line drop down that is splitting the base of this triangle. We want to know what the value of x is. So this time they have kind of done the work for you in the setup. You're just going to set it up the same way as the last one, side to bottom equals side to bottom. But the setup, again, is kind of done for you in this one, so that's good. 99.2 over 62 equals 112 over x plus 2. Cross multiply. So we end up with 99.2. Oops, that part of the screen doesn't like me. All right, 99.2 times, and I'm going to put this in parentheses again. Don't forget about the distributing anytime you have multiple terms added or subtracted when you're cross multiplying there. And that equals 112 times 62. So grab your calculator. You should already have it out. 112 times 62 will give us 6,944. We'll distribute that 99.2 to have 99.2x plus 99.2 times 2. And you'll get 198.4. All of that's equal to that 6,944. Subtract 198.4. Use those calculators. Don't try to do this in your head. It just leaves too much room for errors when we're talking about decimals and all of that. So utilize those calculators. No reason to try to do this in your head. But do remember this is 6,944 minus 198.4. So we have 6,745.6. Now our last step is going to divide both sides by 99.2 to get x by itself, because that is what they ask for in this problem. So we divide by 99.2, and we end up with x equals 68. So that smaller piece, if we were asked that, x is 68 feet. The smaller piece there would be 68 plus 2, so that smaller piece would be 70 feet. But we weren't asked that. We were just asked for x, so that's 68 feet. This last one here is a side splitter theorem, or it can also be called the triangle proportionality theorem. Top to bottom equals top to bottom. You set it up the same way that you set up the angle bisector theorem. It's just different pieces of the triangle. If you have that line cutting through the triangle that is parallel to a base, then the pieces that are left on each side are proportional to each other. So 11 is to 121 as 10 is to 5x plus 10. And they are asking us what is the value of x. So we are solving for x. This gives you 1,210 equals 11 times 5x plus 10. That winds up with 1,210 equals, and we're distributing 55x plus 110. We subtract 110 on both sides. We end up with 1,100 equals 55x. We divide both sides by 55 to get x by itself. And that was a minus 110. My handwriting got a little funky there. And we end up with x equals, so you're going to take your 1,100, and divide by 55. And you get 20. So x equals 20. And that will be your final answer. If they had wanted, and this would be centimeters, if they had wanted to know this side length, we would simply plug that x in. We would do 5 times 20 plus 10, 100 plus 10, so 110. But they didn't ask that, so we can just leave it with x equals 20, and you're done. Good luck on your quiz.